Morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 34 in the book of John. Today we're going to talk about where faith gets real. It's from a story in John chapter 4. Turn there, it's at the last part of John chapter 4, verse 46. It's a story of a second miracle. So he came again to Cana in Galilee where he had made water wine. That's the first miracle. And at Capernaum there was an official whose son was ill. So that's the problem today. When this man heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went to him and asked him to come down and heal his son. He asked two things, for he was at the point of death. So Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." The official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word that Jesus had spoke to him and went on his way. As he was going down, his servants met him and told him his son was recovering. So he asked them the hour when he began to get better. And they said to him, "Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him." The father knew that was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." And he himself believed, and all his household. This was now the second sign that Jesus did when he had come from Judea to Galilee. So, of interest, Cana, little small town, gets two miracles. And the good news, too, for us is we get two miracles. One of the foundational questions is, what do you do when you get two miracles? First one being the water to wine, and now a story of saving from death. I guess the first question would be, hey, what'd you do with the first miracle? And you probably do the second thing you did with the first one, put it on the same shelf. Now, Jesus has had other miraculous insight. Nathanael was under the fig tree. He saw that. The woman at the well and Nicodemus. But these don't count. These are physical things in the world of miracles where molecules and natural pathways are changed. So a sign is a divine interruption and superseding of the natural order that gives credence to his power over natural processes. And it attests to Jesus' identity as Lord, and the purpose is to lead us to faith. So a sign is something that is in your face, so it may lead to faith. So there are no neutrals. The signs they demand a response, a positive or negative response. And we know that sometimes people get better in our experience. I'm talking about just health-wise now. But this, we find out, was not going to be one of them. This child was going to die. And the urgency that was felt by the father was true. And so in verse 54, we can't separate this sign from Jesus. This is a sign that Jesus did. So the sign is so closely tied to Jesus that to encounter the sign is to encounter Jesus. No Jesus, no healing. And Jesus is going to authenticate himself and his message by these signs. All right, let's get to the request. So the request is from an official who has a son, we know that, and he asks him to come, and he asks him to come quickly, and he asks him to heal his son. Now the result is, from Jesus' side, a miracle is done. From the official side, the man has to believe what Jesus says, that Jesus spoke to him and then went on his way. And Jesus basically says, "I'm not coming, you go." He's already been healed. So there's a gap here, and this is the gap of faith where the man has a choice to obey the physical request that Jesus makes. Now, the reason you can get to the physical thing is because he has to do some mental work and soul work beforehand. So miracles are impossible as we understand them. Belief is kind of impossible as we understand it. Certainly what Jesus did here today was impossible, and kind of what the man then ends up doing is also impossible. I'm saying faith is impossible here, on a faith podcast. So it's the man saying, "I believe you're who you say you are. I believe you're Messiah. I believe you're Lord. I believe you're Creator. I believe that you're possibly Recreator, where you can fix this sick kid. I believe that you're Lord over life and death, and by extension now, Lord over eternal life." So this man gets this personal word from the Lord. So theologically, nothing that Jesus has ever been spoken has been found false. So this man gets this promise from Jesus, your son will live. And he has the choice whether he's going to believe that or not. The man kind of asks Jesus to come, but Jesus says, no, you go. So there's this gap where there's this belief in something that you don't yet see. So we're called people of faith, which means that Jesus is going to leave a gap for this guy to fill that gap in with his faith. Remember what faith is. Faith is trusting in the person of God before the promises of God, which is anything he's said, are seen. So by promises, we mean anything. And every utterance that comes out of Jesus' words is true. Then he gets this confirmation from the guys, running up from his hometown. And then there's these ripples, which is so cool, that it makes a difference. There's an influence in this story. It matters. It matters for others what has mattered for this man and his son. This matter between just Jesus and the singular man now becomes an issue for a son, a family, servants, and maybe the town. Doesn't say the town. And of interest, it becomes an issue for anyone who hears the story, which is you, dear podcast listener. So all of his household believed. Now, I looked up the word today, and it means anybody who lives under his roof. So it might include the servants as well, which would be even cooler. So we just got off of this major encounter, a very long encounter with the woman at the well, where we had these clash of cultures and clash of gender and clash of religion. And now we have this relatively minor encounter with Jesus. And I guarantee you that this was not a minor encounter for him. So my conclusions today are, if you consider this, I guarantee you this is not minor for you either. For him, his house, this is the most important story in the Bible. And it can be for you too, because this is where his faith got real. And maybe that'll be for you too. So whether you're facing a situation of sickness or temptation or sinfulness or trial, that you have to exercise belief before sight and fill in the gap with faith. So everything you need to believe is in this little story. You can do this. He and you get a chance to believe the word that Jesus spoke before it's eventually seen. So where does faith get real? It gets real in this gap that Jesus leaves for faith, in the space between promise made and promises seen. Thanks for listening.